So before I get started, I just want to quickly tell you two things. So sometimes when I talk, I have a tendency sometimes to turn my back to the audience. So when that happens, feel free to just tell me and say, Quyn, we are here. So that would be good. And also, apparently, there's some kind of countdown clock somewhere around here that I'm supposed to see, but so good luck for stopping me. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, "Do not go where the path may lead, but go instead where there's no path and leave a trail." And so today I will share with you two stories, and I invite you to listen to them with your heart. I don't have eye contact. I don't have slides up here to engage you, but I will speak to you with my heart. So if I'm not looking at you, I'm not ignoring you. So the first story is about my journey of walking on a pathless path, and in the process have invented my own life path. One of my first memories as a child in Vietnam was an image of a man singing on the street, playing the guitar, and that man happened to be blind. And so losing my sight at the age of 2, the path of my life in Vietnam could have been being a beggar, or selling lottery tickets on the street, or being completely dependent on my family. And so when I was 9, my mom decided to change my life path completely by starting me on a new pathless path. She decided to take the biggest risk of her life by fleeing from Vietnam with her 2 young daughters, my sister and I, while my dad was still being imprisoned by the Vietnamese Communist government. And in fact, it was exactly 22 years ago, November 26, 1989. My mom knew very well that thousands of other Vietnamese boat people did not make it and subsequently buried their lives in the sea. But as she would put it, in our search for freedom and life, we hoped for survival while assuming death in the sea. And so as our boat floated aimlessly on the Pacific Ocean for 10 days, 126 of us all became very sick, very weak, exhausted, and lifeless. We were because of hunger, of thirst, and of seasickness. And we were also deeply traumatized by the impact of the pirates' physical and sexual violation that was inflicted on some of us. Our lives at the time seemed so invisible, so small and vulnerable and insignificant compared to the huge and merciless waves of the ocean, waves that were even larger than our lives. And so, turn a laugh, good, thank you. And so as my mom, lying on the boat, drifting in and out of consciousness and almost dying because of giving up her food for her daughters, in her tears, she quietly said to my sister and I, she said, "My daughters, I'm very sorry for risking your lives to come out here. I really thought that it would be the best for you, but it seems that we are losing this battle." And so then she turned to my 11-year-old sister and said, "If I go before you, take care of your sister." And so my sister and I, being very young and scared that we desperately begged her and said, "Please, Mom, please don't leave us. We only have you, and our dad is not with us. And please make it somehow for us." So miraculously, I'm not sure how, but our family survived from that boat journey. Get up. And then I spent 4 years in a refugee camp in Indonesia. Again, I was just a number among thousands of other Vietnamese refugees on that small and overcrowded island. My life was only worth 3 small cans of sardine, this size, per month, and 3 cups of rice per week. So, living there, I really understood what it was like to be hungry, what it was like to wake up every morning and not knowing what to eat on that day, or what it was like when my stomach would growl and churn until it would hurt so much, and what it was like to wear clothes that were so worn out. And in those 4 years, I spent most of my days, every day, rocking on a hammock as a young girl because there was nothing for me to do. I couldn't go to school. I couldn't go out to play like other kids. And I rarely had a smile on my face because I didn't have much to smile about. But I was also really aware of the strength and the beauty of the human spirits around me. And this is one of the reasons why I have chosen to become a therapist. Mahatma Gandhi said, strength does not come from physical capacity, but it comes from an indomitable will. And so even though we had no sense of privacy, no sense of self-respect, self-control, and self-dignity, but we desperately hung on to a sense of hope. A hope for a better tomorrow, because that was all we had, and we couldn't afford to let go of that. So when I finally arrived in Canada 14 years ago at the age of 18 years ago at the age of 14, am I still facing you? Yeah? Okay. I felt like I just landed on a new planet. The Canadian culture was completely foreign to me, the food, the clothes, the language, everything. And I couldn't speak or understand English. And at the time, I never also went to school before, but yet I had to start grade 9 immediately. So, some teachers thought that I was cognitively challenged, that there was something wrong with my head. And at the time, I started to believe them because I was a very young girl, very shy, socially awkward, that I had no idea what would become of me. And I had no self-esteem or self-confidence. And never would I dream of being able to stand here in front of many of you and speak to you today, to individuals who are very accomplishing and inspiring individuals. But one day, a man without any arms, and he came to speak in my school. And his incredible story really inspired me. He had no arms, but he could play the piano with his feet and toes. And so it was like an aha moment for me, I realized that from that day on, I could begin to take charge of my life. I could even invent my own life path. I don't have to be the victim of my life anymore. And yes, I don't have sight, but I could have vision for my future. As Eckhart Tolle would put it, the world can only change from within. So even though as scary and as difficult as it might be for me as a blind person trying to walk on a path that I couldn't see, I knew that I would have to learn to walk on this path myself, and no one else could do it for me. But I also knew that I would have my wonderful family, mentors, friends, and colleagues, and people in the community, and especially my seeing eye dog Nugget, who would accompany me on my path, and I don't have to walk it all alone. And it is such a wonderful feeling to be able to enjoy walking on a path that I have created. There's a saying that we can only appreciate the miracle of a sunrise if we have waited in the darkness. And now I will tell you a second story, and it is about living authentically and choosing a path that your heart truly loves and desires, and really stick to it. I have learned this from counseling individuals who have a terminal illness and who only have hours to live, or days or weeks. So in my journey of becoming a therapist, many times I felt like I have encountered dead ends on my path. And this is what happens often when you walk on your path, or when you work towards your dreams or goals. It can be very easy to feel discouraged and disheartened and disappointed by many of the things that people would tell you what you should and should not do. So, the study of psychology can be very visual. So some people said, well, maybe I should give up psychology and take something else. Or people would say, well, how could I be an effective therapist when I couldn't see the client in front of me? So many times during my training as a therapist, I would feel very depressed and disadvantaged and even embarrassed when my sighted peers could so easily pick up nonverbal cues and those lovely body language that people love so much, and I couldn't. And, so I thought maybe I'm not meant to become a therapist. Maybe this is just a dream and not a reality. But again and again, I would listen, and my heart and my inner voice would tell me that this is what I truly love to do. This is my lifelong passion. So a mentor of mine, he gave me a very powerful advice, and he said, use your hearing, use the power of your mind, the intuition of your heart to transform and transcend the limitations of your eyes and the limitations of your body. So rather than trying to understand the body language, try instead to understand the language of the mind, the language of the heart, and the language of the soul. And so some people said, wow, she looks kind of young and sweet and innocent. What does she know about life hardship? But many of my clients, as they begin counseling with me, they would say, well, you seem to be able to listen to my heart and my soul. And we seem to have this sort of telepathic and very powerful connection that I've never experienced before. And then people say, well, the eyes are the window of the soul, right? You often hear that. I can share with you that I have had the honor and the privilege of being invited by my clients to enter the most private and inner world by going through the main door of the soul, not just the window of the soul. And this is such a beautiful irony for me, because in my life, whenever I go to unfamiliar settings, I would be guided by either Nugget or someone else. But in counseling, the role is actually reversed. My clients have allowed me to guide them to a place of hope, of healing, of meaning, and of empowerment. So to conclude this talk, I'd like to share with you the following quote from Helen Keller. And she said, when one door of happiness closes, another opens. But often we look so long at the closed door that we do not see the one which has been opened for us. So there will be many times in your life when you encounter closed doors, or you walk on a pathless path, or you feel stuck at the dead end of your path. So rather than giving up and feeling discouraged, I invite you to see those moments as golden opportunity for important transformation and growth in your life. Use your mind, your heart, your internal guide, your inner voice, your resources, your support system, or whatever you have, to find open doors, to find open pathways, and to even being daring enough to create a whole new path for yourself and leave a trail behind for others to follow. Many speakers here today have found their own path, and they have left a trail for us to be inspired about. I, as a blind person, a Vietnamese boat person, a refugee, an immigrant, a therapist, I have been able to find my own path, a path of love, of passion, and of authentic living. I have been able to turn my dream into reality. And I really hope that you have, or will soon, find a very wonderful path for yourself as well. So thank you very much for listening.